And welcome to another Round the Rotary podcast with me, your host, J.P. Warren. And I need to say that Round the Rotary podcast is brought to you by Capital Petroleum Consultants. CPT specializes in project engineering and well site supervision in all disciplines of the oil and gas industry. Contact us through www.capitalpetroleumconsultants.com to see what CPC can do for you today. And with us in the studio today, we got Zane Foster, the Director of Business Development North America at Enovate Upstream. How you doing today, Zane?
I'm doing well, JP.
Yeah, so you drove in from San Angelo today?
I did. The short 6-hour trip here just for you.
Just for this. No other reason, no other business in Houston, just to do this, just to do the #1 oil and gas podcast per my wife today here in the studio.
Yeah, that's it, man.
That's it?
Well, I had a few other things on the calendar, but
not as important as this.
Absolutely not.
That's right. So Zane, first off, man, thanks for coming in today, man. I appreciate this. I know that actually it was funny. You and I met previously.
We did.
We met right before the COVID quarantine in March, actually the beginning of March at this, what was it, the IADC?
SPE IADC conference in Dallas.
Conference. We were at the H&P 100-year happy hour that they had at the San Luis.
Yeah,
San
it wasn't
Luis.
at San
It
Luis.
was San Luis.
And they throw a good party.
Man, I'll tell you what, whenever I go to San Luis, whether it's good or bad, it's always a good time. You know what I mean? It's always one of those things, like, if it's bad, it's always a good time.
It's still good.
It's San Luis.
Yeah.
You can't go wrong with it. It's Galveston. So anyway, Zane, man, look, let's do what we normally do. Why don't you just kick off, kind of give us your little background, kind of tell us about yourself and kind of where you're at today and all that fun stuff, and we'll kind of get into it. Actually, we're going to get into it during your background, too, so why don't you just kick us off? Where you from? What you about? Go.
No, man, I'm from West Texas originally. I'm back there now. I've had several stops along the way. When I got into sales, professional sales, I moved out to Scottsdale, Arizona, worked for ING, was on a team that sold mutual funds to financial advisors. So that was kind of cutting my teeth in professional sales, a lot of cold calling.
So did you go from Texas State to Arizona?
I did.
Right after college?
Well, so when I graduated, I took a road trip.
What did you graduate in?
I degree in finance.
Okay, all right.
So yeah, when I graduated from Southwest, Texas State.
Well, you know what?
It was Southwest when I started, but it was Texas State when I finished, and they asked me what I wanted on my degree.
What'd you pick?
I picked Texas State.
Did you really?
Yeah, I felt like it was a little more, less regional, right? Southwest Texas, that was the whole reason they changed the name of the school, because you're talking about a university that has 30,000 students.
Oh yeah,
it's a big Division I school, but it didn't have the notoriety. It wasn't known as the Harvard of the West, per se.
But also, it's also one of the things too. It's like, hey, look, if it's changed to Texas State, like I want to have something recognizable on my diploma moving forward.
Yeah.
Was it a good time there?
I've
always heard Texas State is a blast.
All 5 years were amazing. I really enjoyed my time there. Spent a lot of time in Sewell Park, down the river, the river, Don's Fish Camp.
The library
people
studying.
People there from around there. I didn't do a lot of studying when I was there.
Were you one of those guys who school just came easy to you?
No, but I went every day.
Okay.
So I showed up to class. I did not miss class. I always scheduled Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. So I had long days on Tuesday, Thursday, and I had maybe a night class on Wednesdays, and so I always had Monday through Friday off.
See, I always felt guilty if I skipped a class. You know what I mean? Like, oh shit, I'm missing something right now.
Look, I was very fortunate. My parents, paid for me to go to school, and they said the least that you can do, literally the least you can do, is just show up every day.
Yeah.
So I did. I showed up every day. I took notes.
Set that bar low. just meet that bar.
Well, I studied, and I got a finance degree. Graduated from there in August of 2004.
So you first generation oil field?
I am.
Me too.
I am.
Welcome.
Yeah, most of my family, they farm and ranch.
Okay. So you took a road trip.
I took a road trip after I graduated. I drove from San Angelo to San Diego.
Okay. Why?
So I had some family. So I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do next.
Yeah, I think I still am, man.
I had an uncle that lived in Hobbs, New Mexico, who was a financial advisor for Merrill Lynch. So I spent a few days with my Uncle Barry, talking about what the opportunities were there. From there, I drove out to Phoenix. I met some friends that I'd gone to high school with. They were a little older than me, but they were living there. And so I stayed there for about a week and just kind of tooled around town, Do I
Right.
like this place? What's going on here?
So no plans as a road trip.
No. I had crazy story. My grandmother had just passed, and so they had kind of divvied up. Everybody got a little bit of cash,
Right.
and so I had some money to go on a trip. So I took it, Phoenix to San Diego. I had a buddy who was just getting out of the Marine Corps, so I spent a week there, kind of tooling around, stayed with him, looked around San Diego, and then I took off north, drove to Seattle. Took about 6 weeks on that trip, and I would do camping most of the time. Like it was just my dog. I had a yellow lab.
What was the yellow lab's name?
Benson.
Okay.
Named after Cedric Benson. I was a big Horns fan.
So wait, did you take this road trip on an effort to two parts: find yourself and kind of find what you want to do? I mean, did you want to do something in the finance field after graduating from finance?
Well, that's not an easy question, but yeah, I mean, for the most part, I graduated and I went back to the ranch and started working for my dad.
Okay.
And I spent about 6 months on the ranch before I realized that wasn't going to be my life forever.
Okay.
I enjoy doing it. I enjoy ranch work, working cows, cut calves.
Well, I tagged my first cow. I don't know if you know that the ranch around the road with Cole Thompson. So I understand exactly what you're talking about to the detail about ranch.
Okay.
I did it for a weekend.
Well, look, I enjoy doing it for fun. I like doing it on the weekend too, but I don't want to do it every day.
Mhm.
And so, at some point, I remember having a conversation with my mom and just said, "I'm going to take off and see where I'm going to end up." And so that's how it started.
Cool.
Well,
I like that.
again, man, I was 22, 23 years old. I had a little change in my pocket, and I was, footloose and fancy free. I could go where I wanted to. So yeah, make it to San Diego. Spend a few days there. Start up the Highway 1 all the way to Seattle. That was about 6 weeks.
How was that drive?
Amazing.
Really?
Yeah, man. I camped on the beach a bunch. I actually, crazy story, picked up a hitchhiker on Pismo Beach, gave him a ride to San Francisco.
Whoa, what was his story?
Man.
Was it a good story?
Oh, yeah.
I kind of feel like, first off, I feel like if you pick up any hitchhiker, it's going to be a good story.
So this is how it happened, man. So I pulled on the Pismo Beach. It's like the only beach in California you can drive on.
Okay.
So I pulled onto the beach in a two-wheel drive Chevrolet pickup and proceeded to make it about 500 yards before I buried it in the sand.
Okay.
So I'm stuck and the sun's going down and there's nobody around to help me out. So that's where I set up camp. So I'm setting up camp and it's dark. I have my dog and I'm playing fetch with Benson, and I see this guy coming up the coastline, kind of where the water's meeting the sand. And he goes, "Hey, is this your campsite?" And I said, "Yeah." And he goes, "You mind if I camp with you?"
This literally is the beginning of every horror movie post 1995.
Oh, it gets better. Right, so get this. So
No,
the
it
guy's,
does.
the guy's coming up the beach. I said, "Yeah, no problem, man. It's dark. I can't see him, his face. I see an outline of a person." He goes, "Yeah, you mind if I camp with you?" I said, "No problem." So I keep walking my dog. We come back. I get there. Well, it is a vagabond. Like it's a guy it's a homeless guy.
Okay.
Young guy. Probably younger than me at the time. I was 23.
Okay, so young.
Young fella.
All right.
So we sit down, he's got a fire going, and he asked me if I want some coffee or some ramen. He's making dinner. And I'm like, I can't leave. My truck is buried in the sand.
Yeah.
Right, so I have nowhere to go. So we sit down and we have a conversation throughout the evening. I had a few beers, we had some beers, whatever, talk about life. He was a gentleman from Mississippi who had been around the U.S. 4 times and had some unfortunate circumstances with his family that caused him to leave. But he just decided one day he wanted to hit the road, so he did. So we have dinner, ramen, and some coffee, and we end up going to bed. And I was going to sleep in the bed of my truck that night with my dog. Ocean's right there.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I wasn't trying to set up camp or any of this stuff. And so right before we go to bed, I'm kind of getting set up, and we start talking about our family, and he tells me a story about his father who was in prison for murder.
Okay, and it happened on this very beach.
Well,
on a night like tonight.
So naturally, I think I'm actually going to sleep inside of the pickup tonight. If you don't mind, nothing to do with you. I'm just going to go ahead and sleep inside again. Nowhere to go. So I did, and the next morning woke up to him like asking. He said, "I'm not going to ask you for a ride, but if you're going to San Francisco, can I get a ride?"
So how far away from San Francisco?
About 5 hours.
Was that underway?
5 hours. Yeah, I was going to Napa.
Oh, so this was underway.
It was. I had a friend that was, he's a chef, owns a couple of restaurants in Austin now, but he was working at some restaurants in Napa at the time, and so I was going to meet him. Again,
Okay.
it was just a connection of friends this whole trip, right? Like New Mexico, Phoenix, San Diego, Napa, where Andrew was, and then I had a friend who lived in Olympia, Washington, so I was going up that way to Seattle.
So lily padding.
Yeah, for sure. But in the meantime, I was camping,
Right,
fishing,
right.
hanging out, having a good time. And so the guy says, I'm not going to ask you for a ride, but if you're going to San Francisco, then I get a ride.
Okay.
And I'm like, well, let me check out the map, because I hadn't told him where I was going yet at that point. So I said, sure, man, hop in.
Cool.
So he hops in the car. We take off 5 hours. Of course, when we get there, he wants to go to Haight-Ashbury. So I take him there. He said he had a premonition. He was going to meet his wife there.
Well, first off, 5 hours in a car with anybody is difficult.
Well,
I don't care if it's, look, Monica, if you're listening, I love you. 5 hours is difficult with anybody, close proximity. And the fact you're picking this guy up, this vagabond, which is a nice old school term. I kind of see this guy, and you're saying, yeah, I'll give you a ride. Hop in. Let's go.
Yeah, man.
I like that, dude.
Well, at the time, I didn't think twice about it, and on the way, I called my folks,
Yeah.
just to say, hey, this is what I'm doing. Big mistake, right? Called my mom, and I'm like, hey, she's like, what are you doing? I said, I'm headed from Pismo Beach up to San Francisco. I picked up a guy there, and I'm going to give him a ride. She's like, come again? She goes, call me when you get there. So then my dad calls me about a couple hours later, about 2 hours in. Hey, man, what are you doing? I said, I picked this guy up, I'm taking him off here to San Francisco, I'm going to drop him off. He's like, call me when you get there.
Okay.
Okay? So they're concerned. So that gives me some concern, but at the same time, I was not threatened by this guy.
So is this guy saying anything like he invented the 6-minute workout, the ab workout?
No, I won't go into detail about his stories, but it was super crazy. He had been...
Well, no, I was just making a
No,
joke.
but,
or
no,
something
but I'm
about
just
Mary.
saying, he had been homeless for like 4 or 5 years. So he was like well-versed in where to go, like churches and religion and a
Right.
whole bunch of crazy stuff. Well, then he asked me if he can use my phone
Okay.
to call his family. And I'm like, okay. So he does this while we're riding up to San Francisco and proceeds to have the conversation with his mom and his sister, who he hasn't talked to in like 4 years.
God.
And I'm listening to this stuff on the other end going,
Yeah.
holy cow.
Yeah.
So, I dropped him off, whatever. When it was all said and done, I gave him $20, told him to go find a place to stay and take a shower. That he had a lot of potential and that if he wanted to do something with his life, he could. He told me that he was in the process of writing a book and that I was going to be in that book. I haven't found the book.
But you know what, though, man? I think that speaks, volumes. I think that's such a cool thing. So like, yeah, sure, sharing a campsite and helping someone out, giving a ride. My wife told me this funny story like that she was up in Colorado, and one of her most memorable days was, she was walking by, and I guess this homeless person was like, hey, give me a beer. She was like, I'll tell you what, if I buy a beer, I'll get myself one. You gotta hang out with me and enjoy it or something like that.
Mhm.
And if she's listening, I'm getting the details wrong. But anyway, she's like, I spent the day with that guy, and he had the most interesting stories. It was so interesting to be around this person who just had this wealth of just interesting experiences and stories and situations in their life. That's something that we never have to deal with something like that.
No, for sure. One thing I learned about through that conversation was, not everybody that chooses to live that way is in a bad spot. Like for a lot of people, it's a choice. For him, he was a young man. He could have gone and gotten a job and stayed in, I think he was from Oxford, Mississippi, and done what his family had done forever. But for him, he had to go do something else.
Yeah.
And I think maybe he probably did at some point. He seemed to me like a smart kid. He was, again, younger than I was at the time, so 21, 22. And he chose that path, right? For him, look, I gave him a ride 5 hours, like several hundred miles, and he had done that 4 times. He'd been around the U.S. completely 4 times, and he was 22.
Dude, what an interesting life that guy has. I'm not being serious.
Well, again, not for me personally, but at the end of the day, like, you never know what people's situations are, so it's really hard to judge people that you see without knowing the story. Because once you learn the story, then you may understand a little bit more about why they chose to live that way or chose that path.
And you know what, honestly, Zane, to speak to that too, it's not just so much people that you see that are living in vast differences than you. You know what I mean? Someone could be an asshole to you at a Starbucks or wherever it is, and the things you kind of want to. You're right. Like, you don't know what that person's going through. You don't know what news they just got, what they're going through with their house, or what might be affecting them. So if someone throws out a little callus and all that stuff and you jump direction, I completely agree. You never know what someone's story is. So don't automatically just kind of, plant it, oh, they're homeless, they must be a drug addict, or they're being rude to me at this place, they must be an asshole. No, there might be more than that.
And
I'm not saying there always is, but there is.
They might just be down on their luck, man. And God forbid that you are one day, right?
So you go about life with just kind of just continue to treat people with kindness regardless, because you never know what's kind of their story.
I think it's really important to be nice. I think it's really important to, we talked about this a little bit before, man, but I think you get out of this life what you put into it. And if you put out more good energy and more good vibes than bad, I think you get more good than bad in life.
So do you think anybody intentionally puts out bad vibes? Or do you think it's a question of people, this is kind of, we're getting off topic right now, but I kind of like this right now. I kind of like where we're going down right now, because, you always want to, do good, positive vibes and all that stuff, but at the same time, I don't feel that people out there being assholes understand that they're being assholes.
I don't surround myself with assholes.
I don't surround myself with assholes either. But
do you come into contact with them? Absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
That's a part of life, right? But I think that you do your best to surround yourself with people who are positive and want to do good things. And the more you do that, and the more of those people you have around you, I think the better quality of life you can have.
Yeah.
But that's up to you. At the end of the day, the reality is you can't control other people and how they treat other people. You can only control how you treat people.
But dude, that's also shifts into kind of what you and I were talking about earlier before we got on the podcast. It comes to everything right now.
Yeah.
You can only control what you can control. You can only give a shit about what you can give a shit about. You know what I mean? For example, it's like, right now I think we're recording this in November 10th. I think the election results just happened.
Oh yeah, I don't even know.
Exactly. So what I'm saying is, like, I'm kind of this tangent here.
I did my job. I voted, and that's all I could do in this election, right? So once that was done and the other things started happening, hey, look, I tuned that out, man. I can't control.
Dude, I'm a huge fan of tuning it out. I'm a huge fan of controlling what you can't control and not trying to get involved and try to change other people's opinions or perceptions about you. I mean, it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous these days.
There's a lot of it going on. There's a lot of posturing, a lot of things out there that aren't that are negative. And the reality is, like, we need more people to take the lead and being positive, right? I understand there are things in this country that need to be fixed without a doubt. Well, you can talk about it all you want to, or you can actually participate and be somebody who wants to go out there and help make those changes. That's how I see it.
Man, I agree. I think my wife and I had a conversation about this. It was kind of one of those things where it's like, we're kind of sitting around, we're hearing all this chatter, we're hearing all this noise, all this dividing, conversations, and these people bitching about this and that, about the upcoming president, or whoever it is, and all that stuff. And I'm thinking in my mind, it's like, look, if these people are so passionate to sever relationships, to chastise, to judge, to that extreme, they care so much about these issues, what are they doing about them? What are they doing besides posting on Facebook or social media, or what are they doing besides, are they getting involved in local charities or local, probably not. So in that case, I mean, you're just kind of shouting out to an empty void right now, trying to fill that with more, whatever you call it, campness or whatever.
You're just perpetuating it.
Yeah, exactly. You're perpetuating it. I completely agree with that. So,
but I think, again, everybody has to do their part, and if you're not willing to do your part, then somebody else will. That's the beauty about where we live in the country we live in, is that you have the freedom to make choices about how you live your life and how you maybe contribute to society as a whole. Right? That's up to each and every one of us. I talked a little bit about the podcast that I did with August Pfluger, right? The guy that won the congressional seat for District 11.
Yeah.
Great guy, man. You look at people like him and Dan Crenshaw, who's a local guy here in Houston, who
we're trying to get on the podcast, by the way.
Dude, I'm a big fan, and I could maybe reach out to August and see if I could put you in touch. He's a super. I'm telling you, August is a great guy. But when you look at somebody who gave their life to military service for over 20 years, and then leaves that to go into public service, God, Like, his whole life has been about service. And I think there are not better options than people that take that path.
Right.
The Dan Crenshaws, the August Flugers. There's a gentleman that's out of San Antonio. They had that crazy video on Instagram they released where they're jumping out of planes.
Oh yeah, no, that was a cool
Dan's
video.
a Navy SEAL.
That's actually what I reached out to Dan. I saw that. I was like, I'm not a political guy, but this is kind of cool.
Yeah.
I want to talk to this guy.
So, look, those people are starting to see and heed the call, right? Of we need better leaders in this country, and so that's where they're volunteering their time again.
So if it's not leadership, I mean, you're talking just people in kind of leadership roles to kind of take that, the service side of things. I mean, how can everyone else act who's not taking a leadership role?
Look, man, you can support local government, local charities. I think there are some things that you can do for local law enforcement. There's some things that you can do for, just your local municipality, right? That affects you more than
A national.
federal government a lot of times, right?
Amen.
It determines the taxes that you pay, and there's a whole lot of things that come into play that I think people overlook quite often. That's right there in front of your face.
Yeah, yeah. No, I completely agree. I do think it's one of those things. It's like it's such a divided place. What can you do today? It's one of those things that number one, get involved in, whether it's local governments or whether it's politics or whether it's charities or communities or nonprofits. You know what I mean? Just
Sure.
if you do care, if you're that passionate where you do want to cut loose a family or friend, then make sure that you have the effort behind it versus just saying, oh, you don't agree with me, so screw you, you're out.
And it generally doesn't take as much effort as most people think.
No, it doesn't. You're right, it doesn't. It's just taking that first step and it kind of bleeds that way.
Yeah.
So anyway, Zane, great segue into what you're doing today. Actually, that was the kind of the worst segue, but I enjoyed that. I enjoyed that conversation. I want to get in more of some of that later, but I kind of want to talk to you because you kind of have an interesting story. You and I met when you were at a company that was acquired by H&P.
Correct.
Correct.
Mm-hmm.
And during the middle of so it's November now. So during the middle of March into November, 7 months, you have left your role at H. Was it H?
It was.
It was H&P to jump on this, not just a new company, this is a startup company,
Yeah, man.
fresh. Talk to me about that, man. Like talk to me about that. I'll start pinging you for questions.
Yeah, for sure. So, I went to work for a company called Magbar in, I guess, June of 2017.
Okay.
Met a guy named Sean DeVers who, has been pretty influential in kind of my thought process and taking advantage of opportunities that are presented. So I met Sean in Midland. We had a conversation. I was working at Payson at the time.
Okay.
I left Payson and went to work at Magvar.
And Magvar was a
survey management platform.
Okay.
So we provided real-time corrections to MWD surveys and then applied magnetic reference values.
Exactly.
Right. So spacing, well spacing, right, was kind of a hot topic at the time, and it just was a good time to get into that
Okay.
business at the time.
Okay.
So we did. So I made that transition. 6 months later, we get acquired by H&P, December 2017, and then from then until April of 2020, I was selling technology for HPT Technologies, and then I managed a team of 4 or 5 guys there for the last probably year that were selling remote drilling, remote directional drilling,
Okay.
and automated drilling technology.
Okay. So
Yeah, man. So then I have a conversation with a friend about, maybe pursuing something outside of a corporate oilfield service company.
well, why is that?
Man, for me, I like to have an impact on what I'm doing, and I think a lot of times in large organizations, good ideas and really positive solutions can get lost in conversation and just with the layers of approval that are needed to move forward on certain
It
projects.
kind of gets watered down, or it
Well,
kind of
it's
gets
just, it's not the priority at the time, and there's, a certain business that is providing,
Right.
The capital for that business to be successful.
right.
Getting outside of that is difficult sometimes, and I've personally always preferred to work for small companies. So if you even go back before I got into oil and gas, I worked for smaller firms. I like direct access to decision makers. I like to be able to change direction as quickly as possible. I like to be able to make decisions in the best interest of the company and the customer. And a lot of times, the larger the company, the longer it takes to make that adjustment.
No, I agree. I get that. I do.
So I had, a conversation with Camilo Mejia, who's the CEO of Enovate Upstream, in early March, right before we met.
Yep.
And I was intrigued, but there were clearly some things.
So you had a conversation. This was a start up.
Yeah, man.
Like
no product
before
to sell yet.
no product got to market yet. Okay.
No product. Less than 20 employees. Some of those are located in South America and overseas, software development and whatnot. But we had a conversation that went on for a couple of months, and on April 20th, I made the decision to leave my job as a manager at H&P to become the Director of Business Development at Enovate Upstream.
So Enovate Upstream, I kind of want to ask you about that real quick. Before I kind of ask about the question. So what is Enovate Upstream real quick?
So it's a software tech company, essentially, that uses expertise from the oil and gas industry to create software solutions for oil and gas.
Okay.
So we have, on average, I think it's about 15 years of oil and gas experience, but we use that to create products for upstream. So we have drilling, completions, production, and a BI module.
Okay.
So, closed loop, essentially we take production information. We start with that. We kind of reverse the workflow, right? So we take a look at production and we try to find out what production drivers are for specific wells.
Okay.
And then from there, we create a drill plan, essentially, that would allow you to replicate that production.
So did you have any idea or use of this technology before you decided to plunge in? Nope.
No, man, I have been in drilling my entire career in the oil field. So again, I've been in sales for 15 years, and I've been in oil and gas for 8, and all 8 of those have been specific to drilling.
Okay.
So when I come in and we have production and completion and BI modules or platforms, those were all things that I've had to kind of learn over the last 4 or 5 months. And luckily, we have a lot of really, really smart people that are, very well educated and are more than willing to help educate me on, different terminologies and processes,
right,
and all the different things that it takes in order to be a reservoir engineer, completions engineer.
So it's a pretty big learning curve.
Oh man, yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Drinking from a fire hydrant.
Yeah.
But at the same time, for me, it was an opportunity to expand my knowledge in the industry. Look, I love working in the industry. I love working in oil and gas. I like the people. I enjoy the camaraderie. So to kind of expand my knowledge, but also expand my contacts within the industry was something that was intriguing to me too.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So let's kind of want to pick your mind about this. So you're at a company. When we met, it was their 100-year. It's an established company, H&P, great company, great people, great products,
100%.
And you decide to take the plunge, literally when I think a day when oil went to negative $37 a barrel.
That is accurate.
Is that very confident and cool about the response? I love it. I respect that.
Thank you.
So you decide to make this jump into a startup technology company.
Sure.
Correct?
Yep.
Correct? Okay. I'm getting this so far. Hold on. Let me build this. Let's build this. A software startup, untested, not known, and you jump in right here in the middle of the pandemic. What is going on in your mind?
Well, I didn't know it was the middle of a pandemic. I kind of was.
What do you think? Would be good. Like, you're my that like things would be. Oh man, things be open up and blow over. Yeah, the first sharp rain will take care of it.
No, honestly, my motto and my kind of outlook on life is, buy a ticket, take the ride. Like, what are we here for? Are you going to be able to look back at the decisions that you made and be proud of those down the road? Was I going to be happy with being a producer at a large company that was already 100 years old?
It was already crushing it.
They don't need me.
Yeah.
Whether it's me or whether it's someone else, that company goes on. But I had the opportunity to start with a company that was on the ground floor and build something that I felt was worthy and worthwhile to pursue. So, you know, a lot of it has to do with like my daughter. You know, I think about all the time I spent away traveling. Traveling 2 days for 2 or 3 hours worth of meetings.
Right.
Just different things that didn't necessarily set well with me and being gone as much as I was. But I also didn't think that was necessarily appropriate all the time, right? So
Yeah.
I felt like if she were to come to me and say, "Hey, Dad, like, why did you miss this?"
Right.
And I said, "Well, I had a 1 hour meeting with HR about this." Like, is that?
Can you really say that?
Is she ever going to be okay with that? I don't think so.
No.
So for me, like looking back at it, it was more like, hey, I want to do something worthwhile.
Right.
I want to help build something that lasts, something that's meaningful, and something that can have an impact on the industry. And I'll put my name on that. And I've always enjoyed what I've done. I've always enjoyed being in sales. I've really enjoyed being in the industry for the last 8 years. But it's like, this is a test to see if you can do it.
So did you do like a pros and cons about leaving a stable, comfortable? I mean, what was going on in your mind during this? And kind of what was going on in your mind even literally the first 2-3 weeks after you made the decision?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you have to look at a lot of different things. You have to make adjustments in your life. You go from a very comfortable position to an uncomfortable position. But again, I think that's where you learn the most about yourself. Right? Like, who are you? You don't learn who you are. You don't learn about yourself in times that are great, or celebratory, and hey, everything's good, and there are no worries.
It's easy
like,
then.
What happens when the chips are down and you are playing the last hand? What decisions do you make then? What kind of guy are you? Are you willing to take that risk? For me, I've always been confident in my ability to the point where, look, if it works out, great. If not, I'll be okay.
Life's going to go on.
It always does.
Yeah, it does.
And so, in this situation, I felt like, what better time to take a risk than at the bottom of the market? Like, can it get worse?
See, that's interesting. Not a lot of people think that way.
Well,
they'd rather take risks when things are kind of
And I mean, I'm not talking shit, but I mean, those are guys that work the same job for 20 fucking years and they're miserable for 15.
Yeah.
I'm not doing that.
Life's too short for that.
Like,
honestly, I agree with that. I agree with that. Everyone, for the longest time, people, chase the next step. I've been listening to this one philosopher, Alan Watts. He talks about, the next step is this, the next step is this, the next step. You're always going for that next step, and you're never satisfied.
Well, my boy Brad puts it well. He says, I can always catch another wave. Right? Like, if you think about it like that and you're in the ocean and things come along, well, you catch a good wave and you ride it until the wave dies. And then there's always something else.
Dude, I love your mentality.
There's always something else, man. I mean, it's not like nothing is the end-all, be-all.
And you know what, honestly, man, this isn't speaking to the people out there kind of in transition, thinking that they should be in the oil field or not. Like, if you want to look out the oil field or not, like, it's going to be okay. Life's going to go on, and you're going to make it work, regardless.
There's no choice.
There's no choice, and you are going to make it work. But I kind of like your mentality, man. I appreciate that. How is it, though, selling a startup company? Because here's the deal. From my experience in sales, I feel that selling technology really takes buy-in. It takes people being convinced that it's not just, overpriced. I mean, there's a lot of stuff coming with selling software, right? There's a lot of hesitant decision-making behind jumping in and getting new software, such as Enovate or whatever software that is. How is it these days right now, talking to customers and talking to people right now about new software and potentially trying to sell it to them?
And I think it's difficult, without a doubt, right? I mean, it's difficult for guys who sell, products that have been used in the industry for decades, right?
Yeah.
Drill pipe, mud, you name it, right? It's tough right now. So imagine trying to go into an operator's, well, you can't go in an office, but imagine having a Zoom call with an operator where you're talking about technology and you're talking about artificial intelligence, machine learning, and, I think...
It's good AI, though, right?
Well, the thing about AI and machine learning is those are buzzwords that are being thrown around the industry right now that I think are very overused, right? There are a lot of people that use these terms that actually don't provide that, but they know that that's kind of what the next hot topic is, right?
Data analytics.
And I think you can get people turned off really quickly if you start talking about artificial intelligence and machine learning, because when you start talking to someone who is, just as an example, a petroleum engineer, well, they're not well versed in machine learning and artificial intelligence.
So how do you talk to, I mean...
Well, you have to kind of explain the process for one, but again, you don't start with what you do. You start with what they're trying to solve. The reality of the situation is if you don't have a solution to a problem they're trying to fix, then there's no reason to continue the conversation. You know, but if you do have a solution, well, then maybe you explore that a little deeper. Maybe you get some technical experts from their team. Maybe, maybe that's that person. Maybe that's, you know, with the product managers on my team. They have a conversation more in depth about what exactly they're trying to solve. We're seeing this issue in this zone. We want, you know, we're having trouble with wellbore stability in the lateral. We need more one-bit runs in the intermediate. Okay, well, what are you starting to see? You start to have these conversations about the issues and the problems that they're facing and that they're looking to solve. And there's a value associated with that. So while they're having the technical conversation, then you determine what the value is of that solution. And then you negotiate that as you go through and prove out the technology. I mean, there's no way that you can say, hey, you know, here's this, you know, product and guarantee if you run it, you're going to improve ROP and reduce days versus debt. Like, don't.
Were you over-promise and under-deliver?
Oh, man, you always go the other way.
I completely agree.
100%.
Under-promise, over-deliver.
Yes.
Yeah, I agree.
And with oil and gas, you undercharge and over-deliver, at least in the beginning, right? Like, that's kind of how you build your rapport and your reputation. So, you know, it's not been easy, but I feel like right now people are open to having conversations. And I think it's important to have these conversations now when people have time. And look, just because there are fewer people, there are no fewer projects. Right? There's the same amount of work to be done with an operator or an organization, whether it's on production or completions. They're still working on design, you know, geometric or you know, there's a ton of different things that people are looking into to improve efficiencies and get better. Right. And that's on the reservoir engineering side when you look at production drivers. Again, on the completion side, when you look at different types of completion designs, whether it's engineered or geometric, or on the drilling side. OP optimization has been a big topic for quite some time, but I think that you can also take a look at different things like consistency and production. Because at the end of the day, the reality is we're trying to maximize EUR, right? You're trying to get as much oil out of the ground as you can.
Yeah.
So if you're talking to somebody at an operator, and you say, look, I can reduce your days versus debt by 10, 20%, whatever. So that's a day. Okay, cool. What's that, 50, 60, 70 grand, maybe? You're talking rig, personnel, housing, everything else?
Yeah.
Or what if you could potentially stay in zone 10% longer, right? So there's another 1,000 feet of production at $50 a barrel. Okay, that's real money.
Yeah.
Right? The short money is on the day rate. Hey, I'll cut your days versus debt. Okay, that's great. But the reality is when you look at production, what the sole purpose of
what matters.
Operator is to get oil out of the ground is if I can get more oil out of the ground for you, can I help you out?
Yeah. So how do you find that reception?
Depends on the audience, but you know, I think when you talk to the right level, they understand that, right? Like there are certain people in the industry that are graded, their roles are graded by the same standard that it was 20, 30 years ago.
Well, I'm saying, I mean, you were at H&P. I mean, you were a company acquired by H&P before, so you had this name coming up and approaching to operators, like potentially get a meeting, a cold call, right? Sure. For example.
Sure.
What I'm saying is like, what I'm asking is like during these times, I mean, you're selling this new software. I mean, how are you? What avenues are you, I guess, going down to create potential points of sale?
Yeah. So I mean, you know, I've been in the industry for 8 years, so I do have some contacts.
Yeah.
I leverage those, obviously, but I've been in sales for 15 years. I cut my teeth making cold calls. Like, I have no problem sending emails. And look, you can be overly aggressive in those situations, but I feel like most of the time, if you have something good to offer, eventually those people will respond.
Yeah.
And that's been the case. It might be a LinkedIn invitation. I don't spend a lot of time on LinkedIn because I feel like it's pretty saturated with salespeople and people looking for jobs, and a lot more like social media than professional networking. So I don't spend a lot of time there, but I feel like if you make the right connections there and you put out some decent content, people will notice, and they'll start to respond. It might not be in 2 months or 3 months or 5 months from now, but at some point, if someone's looking to solve a problem and you have some content that might be able to help them out, then they're going to reach out.
Yeah.
I mean, I really believe that's how it works. That's how it's worked for me. That's how it's worked over the last 4 or 5 months, and it's been kind of fun to see that come to fruition because I didn't have a lot of faith in it originally.
What, just dangling the solution?
Look, man, I was never the guy that just like, but because of timing, right? You had to use the resources you had available. I can't call on these guys. I don't see them at AADE shoots.
Yeah.
I don't see them at golf tournaments. You know, so guys that I know but I don't really know, then I may reach out to a contact that they do know and say, hey man, would you mind introducing me to so and so?
I'll pick up lunch. You set up the lunch.
Or not, just I'll shoot an email. Hey man, like Zane has some good stuff to say. He's a good guy.
Yeah.
You should visit with him.
So this is your first startup you work with,
Mhm.
correct?
Yes.
From the ground up. Let me ask you a question. Are you having fun?
Yeah, man. I'm enjoying my time because
What's enjoyable about it and what's not enjoyable about it?
look,
So we're talking to someone that's kind of jumped in a startup company during the pandemic. So I think it's very interesting to kind of get their mindset for those that are out there listening that might have an offer that they're kind of comfortable where they're at right now. So I just kind of want to get his kind of his point. You know, what are you enjoying about it? You know, what do you wish you knew before you kind of hopped in to make the transition a little bit smoother?
a lot less conference calls. I enjoy that.
Oh man, that's everywhere though, baby. I don't give a shit what company you're at.
Before I left the last one, I was doing 7 or 8 a day.
God.
Power each.
How beneficial were those 7 or 8 a day?
Well, most of it was internally focused, right? So it wasn't really like we were trying to solve problems or talking to customers. It was a whole lot more about what we're trying to fix, internally.
So those are like meetings for the next meeting.
Mhm.
So let's plan this meeting.
Which is fine. Again, I mean, look at a well-established oilfield service company, and to be at a place like that, that's necessary.
Yeah.
You have to look within to figure out, how to solve problems. Like here, it's more about providing solutions. I'm also involved in a lot more things than I was before, like marketing, like ideation sessions where we talk
Like
about
what?
Ideation sessions.
Well, for those
So
that
we
are
have
listening that don't know what that is, what is that?
We have a director of innovation
Okay.
at Enovate. This gentleman's name is Herman Bocanegra.
Where's he from?
He's from Colombia.
Nice.
Great guy.
So you work with an international team.
I do.
How is that?
How
How is that?
It's amazing, man. We have an office in Bogota. We have a sales team there. We have a few developers, and a few of our system admins are located there. We have a group here in Houston, which is comprised of some former large oilfield service company employees. Our CEO, Camilo, he did 10 years.
Was he on Digital Broadcast with you?
He was.
Yeah, I saw that. So I think that's got to be such a cool experience to have such a international. I mean, how business, because one thing that I learned in international business done differently elsewhere. You know what I mean? It's always done at a different pace elsewhere. You don't bring up family here, you bring up family here. You don't bring up business first thing, you bring up business first. You always have that mix. So I think that has to be such a cool experience. I'd imagine.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, for me, I've always enjoyed different cultures.
Yeah.
I travel a lot on my own personally. That's always been something I've been interested in, and something that I really enjoyed doing before the pandemic. But
Did you travel a lot?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, a couple of international trips a year on average, and maybe a week at a time.
All right.
So for me, it was always nice to get to see how other people live in other cultures. But working with people from different cultures is also interesting because you get to learn about how business is done in different places. It's certainly not the same.
It's not.
In South America, in Argentina and Colombia, they don't deal with the same issues that I deal with in the Permian Basin.
Right.
But it's nice to hear and have like conversations about what they do to resolve issues, and maybe it could be effective here. So yeah, I mean, you know, Herman is amazing, super smart guy, has a master's in innovation from a school in Cambridge, and
Masters of Innovation?
yeah, man, that's a thing.
Look, man, I don't know anything about that, but that sounds to me like the toughest thing. I can't even decide on a place to go eat, a new place to go eat every week with my wife.
He's great. We should. He would be an interesting dinner guest.
We'll get him. Okay, let's get him for dinner
He
then.
would be great. He lives not far from here.
Okay, nice.
I was with him today. I'm probably gonna meet him after we get done here.
Well, shit, bring him over next time. I'd love to meet him.
Yeah. So I mean, it's just different. It's a different culture and a different environment, a different setup, right? The goals are different, right?
Yeah.
When you go from a company that's been established for 100 years to a company that hasn't been established for 1 year, right? It's night and day. But at the same time, you have issues, right? Like the corporate issues are much different than startup issues, but you're really
What
just
do you mean?
like I said earlier about you know, being able to get ideas out and to have them come to fruition. It's
Right.
very difficult in a large company because there are other goals, objectives, and priorities. In a startup, man,
And plus, people want to fit in at large companies, so they don't want to go against the mold.
yeah. I mean, there's a lot of different things that happen in places like that, politics and bureaucracy, and I'm not saying specific, I'm just saying in general at large corporate entities, that's how it works.
Yeah.
And everybody who's been there understands how that works.
Yeah.
So what you don't have at a startup company is that, but what you also don't have is a lot of structure around process and procedure and how things are done on a daily basis.
Hey, man.
Hey bro, you know how to upload Office on your laptop and get it connected? Yeah, I didn't either. So
I used to have an IT guy for this. I don't
exactly.
anymore.
I used to get a laptop in the mail, and it had all the shit that I needed on there.
Not anymore.
Now it's like, hey, dude, figure it out. You know, and they all use WhatsApp, right? Like because it's all international. So there's
WhatsApp
different.
is huge international.
It
I talked to my
is.
friends from Saudi with WhatsApp.
Dude.
Yeah.
And so now I've got it on my laptop, and that's how we communicate. And you know, another thing is that it is nonstop. And I'm not saying that it wasn't previously, but I just mean these guys, we're all working towards the same goal. And it's imperative for our livelihood that we make it successful, right? It's different when you have revenue streams that are consistent.
That are outside of your scope of sales. So pretty much you have skin in the game now. Yeah. So
I wouldn't have done it otherwise.
well, let me ask you a question. I mean, what's your stress level like being since when you started this to before you started?
Comparatively speaking,
Yeah.
I'd say it's half of what it was before.
No shit. Why?
Because it's going to be all right, man.
Fucking amen to that. I like
mean,
that.
Reality is, look, I took this chance and I took this risk because I wanted to provide a better life for my family in the long run. But the reality is that it's going to be okay no matter what. I mean, I could be super stressed out and worry about, you know, but I'm not.
How's that going to serve you if you are?
If I'm successful?
No, stressed out.
Oh, it doesn't.
It doesn't.
It just adds to the stress around me, and I tell that to my wife all the time. Like, our attitude and our energy is how our house reacts, right? We have 3 kids. My mother-in-law lives with us, and so if we're stressed out and we're worried about certain things, then the kids, they notice, and that's not what I want to portray. I want to provide a positive outlook and just believe that things are going to work out for the best. I think they will, you know, but I don't, I'm not married to anything but my wife. And that includes a job, that includes ideology, that includes anything else that comes around here, right? She's the only thing that is constant, and, you know, my family. But
And she's probably the only one to make or break your happiness.
that's also very true. She could definitely put a damper on that. But
You have the shittiest day at work. You come home, I get it. I get it. Yeah.
No, I don't. I'd say stress levels is half of what it was, man. Like, there was a lot of unnecessary stress before, whereas right now the stress is on performance, and that performance is on me. And if I'm going to make a bet, well, I'm going to bet on me.
Which is pretty motivating. That's kind of what I did when I took a chance over here at CPC. I mean, it's one of those things like bet on yourself. You know, you're only as good as
how big a boy are you?
Yeah.
Right. That's kind of how I looked at it. Was, again, I had won some things and got some praise from some people at my previous company, and it was very nice to have. But put it to use. Like, what are you as good as you think you are? And if you are, prove it.
Try it out there. So Zane, your entire relative pertinent career has been around software, right?
Hey, even before oil and gas.
And so you and I were sitting around and talking, and I'm like, man, it's gotta be so tough, like a software sales guy. You gotta be pretty technical. You gotta be this and that. I mean, what's your approach to sales and I guess establish relationships?
Yeah, so I am. I'm not the most technical guy.
Which is mind blowing because you've been focused on the past
technology
for
for
8 years.
Well, 8 years for sure, and then I would say another 5 before that.
Yeah.
Purely technology, software sales. Look, man. I mean, I think sales is, to me, there's a specific process, and everybody's is different. But I kind of have my own process, and it seemed to work well for me in the past.
How long did it take you to find your groove?
It was pretty easy once I got to outside sales. So I started off inside sales for a mutual fund company. So
okay.
I literally worked in I had to wear a suit and tie every day, and I worked in a phone bank where I had to make 100 calls a day.
With a suit and tie?
Oh yeah, man. Because you were trying to get to the next position, which eventually I made it. But you come in and you make a bunch of calls, but you call financial advisors trying to sell mutual funds, right? They have clients' money, they're looking to invest, and you're trying to get them to invest in your funds.
Billy boiler room.
Oh, Reco.
Here's my keys.
Yeah,
you don't believe me? Go fuck yourself.
That's exactly it. Yeah. So I mean, the phone rings, and they would do things like that, right? They would say, "Hey, today all inbound calls are open because you have a territory, right? Yeah, you covered total, right? Texas, Oklahoma, Louisiana, and somebody.
So some days they're just going to open it
Some
up.
days they would go, "Hey, all inbound calls are open, and whatever you close today is yours."
So
because beforehand you had to pass that off to that rep. They called it organized conflict, and they liked it. They liked the Shark Tank.
That is such a bullshit boiler room title. It was organized conflict.
It was crazy, man. But I mean, that's kind of how I started, and I did that for 4 or 5 years.
Oh, dude. So at the end of
but I was like 23, 24 to 28 or 9.
Yeah, but you're still learning how to kind of just shut everything down.
Oh yeah, but you get real aggressive, and you get
yeah.
you either good or you.
But that aggressive shit doesn't work that well in the oil and gas industry.
In any industry, the only time it works is if you're selling used cars or software, right? And I mean software in the sense of software solutions to enterprise problems, not directly related to oil and gas.
Yeah, so your sales, so you had to do that type of sales, that'd be uncomfortable to me.
Well, I mean, it's all about getting the door slammed on you, right? Like you cut your teeth on making these calls and people not wanting to talk to you.
Right.
Okay, well that's fine. I'll just call the next guy.
Yeah.
Well, then you start to learn in outside sales that there are fewer opportunities, and you need to make an impact when you get an opportunity. So you have to be focused and you have to be ready and prepared. And I would say, when I started in outside sales was really when I found my groove and how I felt I made the biggest impact.
And what's your impact?
And it's just about having conversation, I keep a very clear line between my personal and my professional life. Right?
What do you mean?
I mean that...
See, I blend mine all the time.
So I have professional, I have friends that I work with that I have a professional, I have a professional relationship with.
Yeah.
But it's still about the work. Like, I met you through this job, and while we can be friends and we can go to lunch and we can hang out outside of work, but the reality is that I have to still be professional in my role. Right?
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, if you're paying me for a product or service, I can't rely on my relationship to keep that.
Yeah.
I have to rely on performance and being good at what I do, and then have trust in my guys on the operations side that are providing the service that I sold. See, that's the hard part about being a sales guy when you sell software and service.
No, but you know what though? It's not just software. We had Jonathan Brignac on here, and his podcast I think was released on Monday, and we discussed that too. It's like one of those things. Like, look, everyone says this is a great time. Everyone says sales. Oh, it's a cakewalk. Y'all do happy hours and golf and blah blah blah. But no, there's a certain. You always have to have a certain level of professionalism. Because it's a job. It's a job.
It's not just professionalism. it's performance, right?
Yeah,
Your
but
job
yeah.
is to generate revenue.
Yeah.
And if you don't generate revenue, well then guess what? You don't have a job.
Yeah.
And I have always been very comfortable with that. Like I've always performed to the level where I felt like I easily justified what I was paid, and
Yeah.
then some. You know,
Yeah.
in a lot of cases, sometimes more than others, depends on the product that I was selling. But
Right.
the reality is, I appreciate the relationships, the personal relationships that I make through my work, but I also understand that that's a professional relationship.
How are you getting these professional relationships during times like these, though, when it's
tough?
when it's tough to get in offices or do lunches or do X, Y, and the old tricks?
I mean, I don't really have an answer for like a specific way to do it. You know, there are certain times whenever I reach out to people that I know and ask for an introduction.
Yeah, that's
Maybe
kind of
engineers and guys that I know say, hey, look, I've been trying to get a hold of this guy, and I understand he's probably getting bombarded by a million people, but if you could just literally copy me on an email and say, hey, this guy's all right, maybe you should have a conversation. Just a warm intro goes so far.
I'm the same way, man.
But
Like,
that's it. But I don't ask for those often. Like, I will bust my butt trying to figure it out any other way but that before I ask for help.
Do you start talking personal, or do you start talking business right off the bat? Or problems that you can solve?
I mean, I would start off with just a general conversation.
More bullshit.
Yeah, for sure. How's
Yeah.
it going, man? How's your family? Like, how you guys getting through this thing?
Yeah.
You know? Kids back in school, you know, same shit, but like, that's what everybody...
That's what everyone's talking about.
Well, it's like, okay, we're in this together.
Yeah.
And then it's, hey, you know, I've been working with so-and-so, and this is something that we've done for them. I'm not sure if you're dealing with the same issues. If not, maybe tell me what you are dealing with, and I'm happy to see if we might have something that can help you out.
Yeah.
That's it.
No, I mean, I mean, I'm just thinking about this. I was actually, before our interview, I was looking at Enovate website and all stuff. It looks so fucking impressive and like flat, like it looks. I mean, it seems like an easy thing, not an easy thing to sell, but it seems like obviously nothing's
Come
easy.
get some.
Yeah, no, nothing's easy to sell right now. But I'm just saying, y'all have done such a phenomenal job on, I guess, the visuals and the content to get it out there. So what avenues are you using to get that content, the stuff that I've seen out there,
Yeah, sure.
to customers?
You know, I think there's a lot of technical conferences that are still going on, right?
Are those still being hit
Yeah,
hard?
for sure. Year Tech. I mean, they're all digital or virtual. So
You still getting good participation though?
yeah, the thing is I feel like, you know, I'm sure you've been to Doug conferences and all these other things in the past, right? But like, it's what, 85–90% salespeople.
95 lately.
Yeah. So
Actually, 99%.
and you know, operators don't go because those 95% of the people are hounding the shit out of them.
Oh
about
my
one
God,
person.
dude. So I completely agree. All these Doug conferences, SBE and all that stuff, if you find a customer, you do kind of have to like keep it to yourself. It's like, hey, we're going to go to dinner here, and then we'll go out after. Then I'll let you talk to other people after. But like you, because I remember back in 2014, 2013, there was customers everywhere. It's kind of graduated where it's just sales dudes.
Look, man, they don't want to
and
get bothered.
sales
Look,
dudes
they don't
and
want to get
dudettes.
they don't want to get hounded, man. Like I completely understand.
I
So
get that.
I think in the virtual, they can attend sessions that they think are
Yep.
beneficial to them, and they do. And if they have questions, and you can reach out directly to some of the presenters and other people and just say, hey, look, I've noticed that this is a comment you made, or this is a problem you're trying to solve. We might have a solution. Let's have
Let's
a
talk.
conversation. So I think it's actually, I prefer it, for one. Two, I just never got a lot out of those conferences.
With the Doug conferences and all that stuff.
I mean, you know, as a manager, I'd have 2 or 3 guys there. I'd spend 20 grand to have a booth, and you know, I got salary locked up for a week, and like, you know, everyone says the same thing. If you just get one customer who pays for itself, okay, great. But what if you don't get one?
I know.
And the reality is,
Lately, it's been tough to get one.
we'd see a lot of customers there, which was great, but they were already customers. So like, I could have gone and taken them to the best dinner on the planet for less than what
Yeah.
I paid to see them at that conference.
Yeah.
So I think, you know, I did Digital Wildcatters about a month or 2 ago, and I think those guys are onto something good with the platform. You know?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Listen to Colin talk shit about SPE and all that, and I'm not saying that there isn't value there. I'm just saying I think that the way that we conduct business and the way we meet each other outside of work is going to change.
It is changing. And you know what, honestly, people like Colin, either he rubs you the wrong way, he rubs you the wrong way. You know what I mean?
I will never forget when I saw the first LinkedIn video when he was walking around dropping the F-bomb.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and I want to say I sent him a message after that, and we connected, and it was like, hey man, I feel you. I'm picking up what you're putting down, bro. Like, it is refreshing to hear you, because look, this is the way we communicate and talk. Whether
Normally,
you like it in the industry or not.
Normally,
it's a locker room mentality, men and women, but both included, right?
Both.
But it's very much across the board.
Oh yeah.
And so I feel like it was kind of a breath of fresh air. I'm happy for those guys, man. That they got the backing.
But that's one of those.
But moving in that direction, I think, is what we're gonna see as an industry. And I'm happy to be a part of it.
But that's what I'm saying. I mean, I think what Colin and Jacob are doing is great. It's awesome. You know what I mean? I mean, these guys they're funny, they're controversial, which is like, you know what I mean?
Hey, if that's your thing, then do it.
But just like in sales though, I mean, I act ridiculous a lot of times. For example, I'll go to these events and I'll either you dress up with American flag pants, or I'll come in wearing a horse, blow up. I'll do stupid things. I mean, and I'll be silly, but like it's for a reason.
Sure.
You know what I mean? So people, what Colin and Jacob are doing, not only bringing important people to the table, talking about this, the new tech startups and the new startups and stuff, but I actually think I appreciate how they're kind of like wash, and that's the point of this podcast too. Is let's just wash away the formalities. Let's get to know you, Zane, on a personal level, versus we had a meeting with Zane Foster the other day and it was great. No, let's get to know these people on a personal level, which I think is everything's shifting that way.
Well, I agree. I mean, again, I think my opinion is that the industry can get smaller. If you talk about 5 years from now, 10 years from now, where we are, I think that there will be fewer people doing more work.
Do you like to do industry? You know what's funny? Usually people say technology makes them do less work, but you're saying there'll be fewer people through technology doing more work.
Without a doubt. I mean, just look at automation and other industries. I mean, you need fewer people to do the same amount of work.
I agree.
It's not.
So
it's not anything new.
Well, how do you feel with that new industry? I mean, are you anxious, excited about it? What?
I'm excited. I mean, I've always been an advocate of technology and helping people be more efficient with their job. I think the issue has been in implementing technology for the last 5 years in oil and gas. It's been seen as a threat.
Yeah.
Right.
What do you mean a threat?
Well, look, if we use this software to help me do my job better, then I'm not as valuable to the company, and maybe they'll let me go.
So you feel there's been a kind of a pushback against
I don't
software?
feel like it. I know for a fact there has been.
Okay.
Yeah, without a doubt. It's you see it on different levels, but I think the people that look at technology as a tool to help them be better are people that are going to succeed in the industry. I think people that look at it as a threat and try to derail certain things, or are people that are going to get left behind.
Dude, I honestly, Zane, I couldn't agree with you more. I mean, so many of these, the huge benefit by doing this podcast. I mean, you hear so many like hot topics or new things or da-da-da. I think you're exactly right. I think if you aren't moving in the way of technology or adapting technology or taking on new or learning about new technology or software or whatever that is, you're kind of going to get passed up. You know what I mean? I mean, if you're not using certain software, I'm not plugging anyone here, whether it's Corv or whether it's Enovate or whether you are going to be kind of left behind doing things on pencil and paper the way we've been doing. But that's not how you want to that's not how you want to fight this battle for value or efficiency in jobs.
So the way I see it, the guys that are interested in doing things the old-fashioned way are getting fewer and farther between. Right? I mean, that's the reality of this downturn. It's the third one in the last 5 or 6 years, right? So,
dude, it's the fucking same one.
Right? Yeah. So call it that. So say it's been for the last 5 years, 6 years. So those people are few and farther between. And I think the younger generation that are entering the workforce in oil and gas are looking for outputs. Now, do they need to learn or understand how we come to the output? Absolutely. But if you find a solution that can provide a consistent output based off of science that you agree with and understand, then why wouldn't you have a better quality of life by using that tool.
It's change.
Because well, of course it is.
People hate change.
Well, not everybody.
For the
Hey,
majority.
look, the people that have been doing the same job at the same company for 30 years, fuck yeah, they hate change.
Yeah,
you know
that's
why?
what I'm saying.
Because they like their job.
Yeah, that's what I'm
They
saying.
don't even like they may not like, they may not like what they do, but they like their job, they like the check,
Yeah.
and that's not enough today.
But
The
that's,
reality
but that's what I'm
is-
saying though, is it's how do you get people to, I guess, buy into that change when it's happening whether you like it or not.
Well, that's the thing, is you don't have to get somebody to buy in because it's gonna happen.
Yeah,
I
that's
mean,
kinda
the reality
true.
of the situation is, it will happen. Look, we've been in this crazy cycle of hire and fire forever, decades in oil and
Okay.
gas, right?
Yeah.
So, in order to avoid that, you have to find more cost-effective solutions for the same tasks that people are doing over and over and over again. You can't just throw people at this and expect it to get better. For one, you have potential error anytime there's human interaction, right?
Right.
Even if your data input, whatever, the simplest tasks can be skewed by human error.
Right.
It's just a part of it. So removing that, in a lot of ways, can help expedite and streamline, current processes and procedures.
No, that's excuse me. That's actually a great point. It's not one of those things where you have to bend people's ear to.
Well, and look,
So
I'm
look at
not
this.
saying that I think there should be less people in the industry and that software is going to take. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is there are tools available to do more work with less people.
Yeah.
If a company is looking to reduce overhead, there's no reason to hire and fire people when you can find consistent solutions to those problems.
So would you tell people right now that are kind of, they're, you said you can do more with less people.
Mm-hmm.
Would you tell those people that are kind of sitting there thinking, oh shit?
You mean people that are in the industry now, or
Yeah.
people that are looking to get into the
In
industry?
industry.
Well,
Well, first off, I don't know anyone looking to get into this shit right now, unless it's recent
Hey,
graduates.
look, I would say get on board with technology, man. Learn new skill sets.
Well, dude, technology, honestly, I'm not just saying this.
Learn
like,
how to use it.
It's going to be the way of the oil and gas industry, whether you like it or not.
Yes.
Everything I'm learning right now, everything I'm hearing from guests and articles and everything, technology is here, and it's going to be here, and it's going to be more relevant to people's jobs.
Just like the rest of the world.
Yeah, exactly. No
Right.
shit. Like,
This isn't going to be the only industry that doesn't use it. So
I've been calling my taxis with a pay phone. It's like, well, dude, get an Uber.
Yeah.
Why are you doing that when you get an Uber on your phone, on your smartphone?
And I feel like, unfortunately, it will be forced on a lot of people, and they won't take it as a challenge to better, to have better professional skills and learn new technology.
Is that the older generation, you think?
Not necessarily, man. I work with some guys that are, I've been in the industry for decades, and they're happy to learn.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
And
Look,
there's
they
some
can
young
do
people
things-
that don't want to learn.
Yeah, for sure. But I mean, I think there's more people willing to learn that are younger in the industry because they want to build a career here, where somebody may have already had a full career here.
Right. No, that's true. So, Innovate's closely related with AI, correct?
Hmm?
So how closely is Innovate connected with Skynet?
Well, I mean, actually, that's a subsidiary of.
Skynet? Son of a bitch, I fucking knew it.
Yeah, no, Skynet's, that's a part of the corporate structure. We acquired those guys not long ago.
Well, Skynet is planning to launch an attack on, I think, U.S. in August 29th, 1997, per Terminator 2.
Oh.
You missed it.
I'm not a Terminator 2 guy. I'm a Terminator 1 guy.
One?
All the way.
Over?
Over 2.
Okay, even with the Guns
The
N'
Fat
Roses.
Boy and the whole.
Even with the Guns N' Roses soundtrack, You Can Be Mine.
Yeah.
So let's talk about this. So what kind of movies do you like?
Oh boy.
I mean, we're coming up on time, but I kind of want to talk. I kind of want to do this.
Top, how are we going to classify these?
I remember
in any way?
I remember when I think I was like 7 years old, and I remember I was at the Houston Racquet Club before we moved to Connecticut, and I looked at the screen, and there was a skull on the screen. The tank went over it. That was Terminator 1. And that was before the T-1000 came out. That was the T-800. And that scared the shit out of me as a kid. So AI, to me, if I was a customer, I think you'd have to sell me on AI isn't going to launch nuclear warheads to humanity and start the Terminator uprising.
Innovate's not. I'll say that.
Okay,
I
good.
can't promise.
So you don't, so y'all don't support Terminator Uprisings?
No.
Well, good for you.
Not right now, anyway.
Good for you. What kind of movies you watch, though?
Favorite movie all time?
No, that's a tough question. I'm not gonna ask that bullshit.
It's not. It's actually a very easy question for me.
So, under all, okay, first off, I think that's a tough question because there's so many good movies out there, so you can have a favorite in every category, but the fact you have a favorite movie, what is it?
Tombstone.
Ooh, that's a great one. That is a great one.
And the reason is, I remember one summer my dad had that old satellite, like the huge one.
Wait, in the backyard?
Yeah, man.
Well, you know,
This
in the
would have
backyard?
been early 90s, late 80s, early 90s.
Wait, you guys have one of those big ones in the backyard?
Yeah, man.
Cool.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, hailstorm comes through, smashes it.
Natural.
We live in the middle of nowhere, so we can't get it fixed. We have VCR. And we had a few VHS tapes. And Tombstone played all summer long.
Well, Tombstone's just a great movie.
What's amazing? I mean, I would say hands down, if I had to pick if someone said you can only watch one movie forever, I think that's it.
That'd be your go-to Tombstone.
I think so. I'm a Young Guns guy too. I like Young Guns.
First off, I haven't seen Young Guns in decades.
Dude, I walk in, I just...
I kind of want to see that right now. Young Guns 1 and 2.
Dude, I was getting carpet. I got carpet installed in my house. I walked into the guy's office, and he had Young Guns 1 going on the TV as I sat, and I just sat down. I
Was Lou Diamond Phillips in that?
Yes.
When he showed the knife to the guy,
Yeah,
the suit with the
Dirty Steve, and
yes.
all those guys.
Wow, mainly Estevez too. That was before he got into being a manager in hockey.
That's true.
With
Yeah, Mighty Ducks.
Mighty Dukes.
I think, yeah, man. I mean, I'm
So how do you spend your free time? Do you watch movies?
I do.
Do you work out every day like as much as me? Or what do you do?
I don't work out every day, but I've been on
5 hours a day like
me. I've been on a kick where I ride my bike a lot. I bought a bike when the pandemic started. We have a bunch of mountain bike trails in San Angelo.
Okay.
So I ride, I don't know, 30 miles a week-ish.
Cool. I drive probably less than that because I live 2 miles away from the office. That shows you how much of a lazy piece of shit
I do like to work out, man. I get up early and try to get it in. I have a young daughter and two middle-aged boys, so during the day I just don't have time for it. So I try to get up in the morning, get a workout in. I do, I do some head work. I do some meditation to try to just keep my head calm.
How long have you been meditating for?
Oh boy, probably when I started this job.
So honestly, so recently.
Yeah,
So
I'd say in the last 5 or 6
Hey,
months.
honestly, like not getting like I know it's an oil and gas podcast. So like, oh man, meditation. Look, I completely agree with meditation. I meditate as well, and I'm just asking about yours.
I think there are, look, I won't say advice, but
Just say counsel.
the way I look at things is you need to find an outlet for stress in your life. And I don't care if it's meditation, I don't care if it's yoga, I don't care if it's CrossFit, I don't care if it's jiu-jitsu. You do something that makes you think and makes you work every day, and you'll be happier.
Yeah.
And I believe that. I haven't trained jiu-jitsu since the pandemic started, but I really want to go back and.
Is that what your boys with the calling?
No, well, I mean, we have that in common, and that's kind of, I think, through comments on YouTube or on LinkedIn. That's how we connected. I haven't ever rolled with those guys, but whenever I was in there last, I told them that I'd try to bring my gi the next time I came.
You should challenge Cole Thompson, Petra Legacy.
I'm not gonna.
He's a rancher too,
I'm not
dude.
going to challenge anyone. I'll tell you that.
Well,
much.
just whatever, just
But
wrestle on the ground, jiu-jitsu on the ground.
Yeah, man, it's a complicated chess, right? That's what something with dire consequences. That's what some people say.
Well, if you want to make the sale, you have to let Cole win.
Wow.
Right.
If he's blue belt or higher, then he's probably got to have Brandon.
Probably not. Cole's wimp. He's also weak-hearted, and he's not. And he's a listener, so if he'll listen to this later, just he'll quote
Cole,
me
I
from
hope to
that.
meet you sometime, and I won't hold any judgment.
So, anyways, Xana, man, what else am I not bringing up that you want to bring up with me right now?
Well, that's it, man. I enjoyed the conversation. I appreciate CPC for having me in. I appreciate you for hosting the podcast, and honestly, I've enjoyed the conversation. I felt like we did 2 podcasts today. One before we got started, and then this one.
Well, Xana, let him have you back, man. There's no saying you can't. Next time you're in town, you can't swing by back around. We'll host a little dinner with some customers and have a good time.
I'd love to, man. Again, thanks, dude. I really appreciate it. I like what you're doing, man. I think you're making a positive impact on the industry too. You're introducing, personalities, and I think it's nice to be able to listen to, you know, people that are influential, or maybe in my case not as influential in our industry,
Even
but
not.
it's nice to hear their opinions on where we are, where we're going, what's working, what's not, and you know, from what I've taken, everybody has a positive outlook. You know, I'm positive
That's true.
about oil and gas. Look, this industry's not going anywhere, right? And I'm proud to be a part of it. I'm proud to still have the opportunity to work in it, and you know, I look forward to the future.
Well, Zane, I appreciate it, man. And my only advice is just unplug from the news, unplug from social media, take time with yourself, and whether it's in your outlet, whether it's meditation, whether it's jujitsu, running, going for a walk,
Yeah.
take something for yourself. And everyone, I want to thank, again, everyone, this is Zane Foster, the Director of Business Development North America at Enovate Upstream. Again, you can check them out on LinkedIn, you can look at their stuff. They have a lot of cool stuff out there, and honestly, it's kind of stuff that's kind of, there was some stuff that I was taken back by, there's some stuff that was kind of over me, but they have a lot of cool stuff out there. Not Skynet, so don't worry about any Terminators coming to your office and taking your jobs. If you have any questions for him or myself, you can either shoot me a DM or something like that, or you can email me at roundtherotary@cap-petra.com. Again, Zane Foster, the Director of Business Development at Enovate Upstream. Again, roundtherotary@cap-petra.com. Zane, I appreciate you coming in, buddy. I enjoyed it, man.
I enjoyed being here. Thanks again, man.
You have a good last quote for the audience? Put you on the spot?
Oh, I don't,
You
man.
seem like
Actually, you know what? Yeah, so a man
You're
has,
a guy with quotes. It looks
a
like.
man has two lives, and the second one starts when he realizes that he has just one. And I feel like I'm in that position now, right? I told you I'm 39, I'm turning 40. And I think at that point in life, you start to look back and not necessarily have regrets, but you don't want to have any moving forward.
Yeah, you don't even waste the time.
Make the best of what you have. And I'd say buy a ticket, take the ride.
Amen, brother. I appreciate that. And I like that jacket that you got in Spain that you stole. So everyone, I appreciate you stopping by. We'll talk.